powered by Riverside.
Welcome in. It is the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast. It is only two. Ethan had another colonoscopy, it appears, as to why he is not able to join us tonight. I'm not sure why it's showing I'm not able to go on the Facebook Live is not wanting to work. I don't know what the deal is there, but we are live on YouTube here. Grant, you and I holding down the fort. We're gonna take a little bit of break from March Madness, as Selection Sunday is this Sunday, so we are less than 4 days away before the 68 team bracket is released, and we will have our full bracket preview next week. But before we do, we gotta get into the NFL free agency. It has been busy. Even since we talked last week about some of the signings that have gone on, now that we are past the legal tampering period. Am I correct there? We are.
Yes.
Teams can now sign now.
You can officially put pen to paper today. And I think, Dylan,
That's
the league year started today. So now, I think at 11 a.m. So DK Metcalf is now officially a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
is okay.
Because those trades,
And,
you can finalize them before, but you can't put pen to paper until the league year starts. Like if you're traded.
That's how that worked.
But if you're released, like Devontae Adams or Jonathan Allen, you can sign with your new team right away because you're no longer under contract with another team. Or if you're re-signing with your current team, Ronnie Stanley, Nick Bolton. But if you're leaving an old team and signing with a new one, that legally cannot be applied until today. Would have been today at 11 a.m. You can quote agree to terms, but you can't fax that from Eagan, Minnesota TCO to New York to let the league know that Fries is now a member of the Minnesota Vikings. It's William Fries, right? Am I getting that right?
Yes, and Ryan Kelly.
And Ryan Kelly. Sure, they agreed to terms on Tuesday, but legal standing, according to the league year, that didn't officially go down today until I want to say 11 a.m. Central Time.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, Dylan, teams had to be under the salary cap, which is $279 million at this time. Was at the gym on today, and I saw Chris Jones and Pat Mahomes redid their deals, and I was just like, at first I wanted to think, oh, they're making a trade, they're going to try to sign someone, and then I was like, no, they're not. The Chiefs are really high over the cap, and by a certain time today, again, let's say 11 a.m., they had to be below that 279 mark, so they cooked the books and moved Jones and Mahomes' contract down so they could be under that.
Okay. And where I was going with this is now that I love how they call it the legal tampering period. And now that I've thought about this, I've had a lot of put on a lot of miles the last couple of days, so I've had time to sit and think while I'm driving. And the legal tampering period, kind of just not a great wording of sorts. Because tampering, by the letter of the law, it's illegal. It shouldn't be happening. So I've come up with this now, Grant, and tell me if I'm crazy. But why don't they call the legal tampering period the negotiating period? Why can't they just call it that? Why do they got to make it so dirty?
That's fair. Called the negotiation period. Something, yeah, no, that makes sense for what you're talking about because the legal tampering window makes it sound like there's really something going on underneath said table. It's better than calling it the fluffing hour.
Who called it the fluffing hour?
I'm saying I just made that up right now.
Okay. Maybe that's what they call like the illegal period, the tampering period,
The fluffing window.
the fluffing window.
Brought to you by Deshaun Watson and Justin Tucker.
Yeah, well, have you I don't know if you've seen that Kenny Pickett was traded to the Browns, and the joke going around the internet is that it was recommended by Deshaun Watson because they like his tiny hands.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
I wonder if Deshaun's a fan of the gloves though. That I don't feel like he's
That
a
might be
glove
some
guy.
friction. That might be some friction on there.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't. No, he wouldn't be a fan of that. He just got
Unless
those
he
soft,
like Hawk Tua's his hands. You think?
like the old spit shine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe. I mean, Deshaun seems to be into some freaky stuff, so I wouldn't put anything past him.
Allegedly, yes.
Alleged freaky stuff. Innocent until proven guilty.
We're not gonna go fully into that. There have been some trades too. I have a whole list of them, Grant. So I don't know what you got for your notes, but we'll just go down the list here. Myles Garrett, it appears, and DK Metcalf both have demanded trades, saying they want to go somewhere warm. They want to play for a contender, and as long as it appears green, they appear to be happy regardless.
Well, hear me out.
And green, you get you saw what I did there, right?
Show me the money.
Yeah.
Well, hear me out. Both players wanted a new contract north of $30 million and to play with a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Let's go to Cleveland. Myles Garrett, average annual salary, $40 million a year. Kenny Pickett technically did just win a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles.
He did. So
it checks both boxes.
It does.
DK
in a roundabout, that sounds like that the way you're explaining this, Grant, sounds like something I do when my team really sucks. Like kind of like what I was doing with Michigan when they made the NIT last year, how they made the final 8 of a tournament in March. Doesn't specify which one, but nonetheless.
Yeah. If we were in the court of law, this argument would technically be upheld by a judge because he got paid and Kenny Pickett just won a Super Bowl. Did he do anything in that group project? No. Did he still get an A+?
Whoa. He did though. For certain people in this world, the over-under in the Super Bowl of players throwing a pass was 2.5.
So he made some people money.
He did. So we can't say he didn't do anything in that Super Bowl. He did do something.
So he did something. Participation grade in the Super Bowl, we'll give him a C-. But C's get degrees. And
this is true. We know well about that.
Yes, we do. He's going to have the jewelry to back it up. Hey, Dan Marino, how many Super Bowl rings do you have? 0. How many does Kenny Pickett have? 1. Suck it, Dan.
Suck it, Dan.
And for DK, he goes to Pittsburgh. He gets the bag. He gets his $30 million. And if they re-sign Russell Wilson, once again, a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he got the bag.
Former teammate.
And
regardless, if he signs Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers.
And I tell you what, Russell Wilson throws a beautiful deep ball. And the amount of time Aaron's going to get teams to jump off sides next year for whatever team he goes to, and you just tell DK to run down the field, it's a great combination to have.
And we'll stay with this because the Myles Garrett contract, it is what it is. He's a great player. It clearly was not about wanting to go to a contender. It was
about
always is ending. It was about the bag. It was about the money. But this DK one is very. I don't love it for the Steelers in the sense that you already have a guy that can go up and get the ball in George Pickens. Now you have two of them, and there is only one ball. I'm not sure what they're trying to do, and especially for Pittsburgh, who has a history of developing, and one of the things that they've done well in these past few years, or since the Roethlisberger era, has been developing wide receivers. They've been good with that, and I don't like paying big receivers. I think you're going to have to pay Pickens here next year. I believe if my contracts are in line, because his rookie year would have been 22.
Yes,
So
you're right, because he wasn't the first round.
He's got a contract coming up. I don't foresee that one being cheap either. But you got two guys that have huge egos. I wouldn't consider them alphas because alphas can keep their emotions in check. These guys cannot. And it's going to be where they're going to be coming to blows on the sideline. You don't know who their quarterback is. They don't have a running game. Their O-line, I don't think, is going to be able to protect him long enough to get the ball out. And they don't really have any receivers that can be that short guy that can bail the quarterback out. Freiermuth is a good player, but he's been very inconsistent throughout the years, and they need that. I think for DK and Pickens to be really successful and for it to be a serious threat, they need a guy like a Tyler Lockett or one of those good slot guys that know how to get open to where they at least have to respect it. And with Najee Harris gone, I don't see who's going to be able to run the ball to where teams are going to be able to come up and, you can put those two safeties back and, not really worry about the run game.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Warren is really going to have to step up, Jalen Warren is really going to have to pick it up next year. And who knows, maybe now the Steelers are looking at getting a running back in the first two rounds in this draft. Because, like I said, it's a position they're going to have to upgrade. You cannot get around it. But like I said, the biggest concern I have, Dylan, is just the absolute crash out that is going to happen between both of these receivers. And how many games next year are these two receivers going to cost Steelers because they lose their motion and they get in a fight?
Yep. Well, we've seen it with Pickens. We've seen it with Metcalf.
It's going to happen. They're going to lose 2 games or 3 games because one of these two gets a 15-yard penalty, and it takes them out of field goal range, or it moves the field goal back. It's not a 33-yarder. It's a 48-yarder. In a 48-yard field goal in Heinz Field, I know it's called something else now, Heinz Field forever. A 48-yard field goal there in January, not easy. Especially if that wind is howling. So this just looked like a desperate move for the Steelers to try to get some explosiveness in offense because they didn't have any, minus Pickens. And also to look at quarterbacks on the open market and say, you know what, come here. Look at the 2 dudes we have at receiver. This just reeks of desperation.
It does. And we've talked about this since DK has come into the league. I remember this was before we started the podcast, and we would just be talking. DK had that incredible showing at the NFL Combine, and neither of us were very high. And to Pete Carroll's credit, he drafted him and basically only had him do what he was good at, was running straight, going up and getting the ball, or getting a bubble screen and letting people block for him. That's what DK is. That's what George Pickens is, and they're great at it. But they haven't developed the full route tree, which you really need in the NFL.
Well,
and I think it could be exposed this year.
And Arthur Smith has not really shown in his career he knows how to get good explosive receivers to ball. Look at when he was in Atlanta when he had Drake London and Kyle Pitts. They couldn't establish a downfield passing game. Has
Drake London or Kyle Pitts gotten a touchdown yet?
I think he finally did this year.
Did he?
I think was it 4 this year? Because I think it was 0, 1, 2, and 4. Like he's doubled his total every year or some shit like that.
Probably. That
But
sounds
his
about
rookie
right.
year, he had like 75 catches. He just didn't score a touchdown. But yeah, Arthur Smith hasn't shown the ability that he can build an offense to get these guys the ball. And also, Dylan, like you said, this Steelers offensive line is still atrocious. And whoever the quarterback is, they're not going to be able to keep him upright to get these guys the ball going down the field. It's going to be a lot of, like you said, bubble screens or quick slants, and then let them make 4 guys miss and run for 60 yards.
Yep. And we'll find out here. See what they do in the draft. We'll keep moving. The on Friday, the Raiders traded for Geno Smith. Now, this is obviously a much better option than whatever they had on that Raiders roster. I don't foresee this being a long-term plan. Geno is 34 years old. He will be good in these next couple of years. I think with Chip Kelly, it's going to look a lot like what it looked like when Geno was at West Virginia under Dana Holgerson. And it's going to come down to, are they going to be able to protect him? That's kind of the biggest worry you have there because I do think the Raiders have some decent pieces on defense. They're going to be a much more well-coached team this coming year, and Pete's going to do a good job of not putting that offense in bad spots. I think there's going to be more of a semblance of a run game, and I think he's going to keep the Raiders in a lot of games. Will it translate to wins? In the NFC West, where you have Herbert and Harbaugh, or AFC West, Reed and Mahomes, now Knicks and Peyton, it's going to be tough, but I think they're going to be able to, that coaching staff, I think they've built a good coaching staff there in Vegas. I think it's going to be enough to compete in some games, but I don't know how well it's going to translate to wins this year.
Let's call a spade, Dylan. This is a last place team. Geno Smith is not a truck; he's a trailer. Besides Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, they don't have much on offense. They don't really have a running game. Are you going to draft Genty high? Or are you going to try to take a guy in the second round? Caleb Johnson, Traven Henderson, Judkins. Yeah, the defense has some nice pieces, but Crosby really seems to be the only guy who can get to the quarterback consistently. I understand he just got paid, but he's had some knee issues these last couple of years, and you worry about that long term. The secondary is still just kind of mid. Yes, I agree. They're going to be coached a lot better, but they just don't have the horses there. And Geno, he's not that guy. Let's call a spade a spade. It's a good story. His line, I know people wrote me off, but I didn't write back. It's good, but when you're the 4th best quarterback in that division, and that division is loaded. Like you said, it's going to be an uphill battle for the Raiders, here this year, and it might take a couple years because they really have to build that roster from the bottom up because it's still not good.
And they just released their center, so their old line, which had some good pieces on there, they take a step back. So it's might be more of the same for the Raiders, but we'll keep moving on here. The Niners are offloading. It feels like that window is closed in San Francisco or Santa Clara, wherever you want to call it. Yeah. I don't know if you want to pay Brock Purdy. I think you want to see more, especially with Debo gone, the backup left tackle going to your team, the Chiefs. Not to mention Hargrove is gone, Ward's gone. I don't think they're going to be done either.
Their offensive line was still an issue last year with injuries and just bad play. Ayuk coming off the ACL, McCaffrey, how are those Achilles? You lose Juszczyk, locker room guy, and that key kind of fullback, H-back piece in Shanahan's offense that can do everything. Like I said last year before the season, this Super Bowl window is done. They're done. They might be last place in the NFC West for the next 2 years.
Wow. That is a bold prediction there from Grant.
That's just what I see, because they also lost Leonard Floyd. Besides Nick Bosa, really don't have anyone else on the defensive front that can get after it. I understand you bring Robert Saleh back, but you're playing that Seattle cover 3, cover 6. And when you only have one horse who can get after the quarterback, don't get me wrong, I love me some Nick Bosa. He's an absolute stud. He's on his way to be a Hall of Fame player. But he can't do it all by himself. You need that piece in the middle. And when San Fran was rolling these last 5 years, they had that interior rush. And when Seattle was rolling with Pete Carroll in this defense, they had bodies too. And also Dre Greenlaw. He's the Energizer Bunny. I understand Fred Warner is the superstar, and he is the better of the two linebackers. But Dre Greenlaw brought some juice to that team that they just don't have anymore. And Halafunga, before he got hurt, also, he's gone too. Like, their secondary was an issue last year already with Halafunga and Ward. Both of those guys gone. I mean, oh my God. And to get to where you started, no more excuses for Brock Purdy. It's go time. They're putting their faith in you because this team realizes they need to get younger. They were their oldest team in the NFL last year. They believe in you. Like, his rookie year, when your head coach goes up to your team owner and says, our best quarterback on the roster was the 7th round pick and the last pick in the draft, it's go time.
Well, I remember watching I think it was Mark Sanchez on the Herd one day, and he was calling one of their games, and when he went down on the sideline before the game and he was watching both of them warm up, and if you didn't have a clue of who was going to be who, it was when Sam Darnold was the backup. The way Sam Darnold was warming up and the way Purdy was warming up and just the way Sam Darnold threw it, you would have thought that Sam Darnold would have been the starter for the Niners.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, you lose Elijah Mitchell. I understand he was hurt these last couple of years, but a lot of big pieces. And with McCaffrey and these Achilles and the wear and tear he's taken on his body, when this running game isn't going, this offense isn't much. And Brock has shown in his career when everything is right and he has all the pieces around him, yeah, anybody should be good, but he hasn't been able to carry this team yet. And he's too turnover prone. He's got to stop throwing the ball to the other team. So, oh boy, Shanahan and Lynch, they are taking a risk on Purdy and trying to get younger. And if they miss, they're going to be jobless in a couple of years.
Everyone's going to be looking for a job, and we'll keep it going here. We teased Sam Darnold. We'll get to him a little bit later, but we'll talk a team that they've got a new coach. It feels like they've got their quarterback, and it finally feels that maybe this team may be turning a quarter and finally getting it. Last year they went out, they got all the big receivers to go with their quarterback. The Chicago Bears, they've went out, they've traded for the tackle from the Rams. They went and got Joe Thuney from the Bears. They've gotten older, and they're well-established players. So you gotta worry about injuries, wear and tear, how they will be going. And I just got a text that the Vikings sounds like have reached a deal with Harrison Smith. So the Hitman is going to be back in Minnesota. But anyways, back to their NFC North foe. It feels like Ben Johnson is running this team, and it's not the McCaskies. It's not Kevin Warren. It's not Ryan Poles. I think Ben Johnson is taking what he learned in Detroit about you build a team inside and out by getting those two guys, two experienced offensive linemen to protect Caleb Williams. They still need another running back, if you ask me. But And then on the defensive side, going out and signing Grady Jarrett, who has been a really good player for the Falcons, and the Falcons are going to miss him a lot. Just a guy that's going to be able to eat up blocks and kind of be that mainstay in the middle that teams have to account for. I think that this Bears roster, they are putting the chips to the table. They don't have to pay Caleb Williams yet, and they're giving him all the tools he needs to succeed in the NFL.
You have to like what Chicago's doing. Like you said, Dylan, someone got in Ryan Poles' ear and said, you need to figure this out. You go on Hard Knocks last year, and he came off very arrogant and smug. Hey, I built this team. I'm a wizard when I can trade for people, yada, yada, yada. Well, the product you put on the field last year was dog shit. The first head coach you hired was awful.
And he fell into that. He fell into the number one pick last year in Caleb Williams. And outside of Caleb Williams, are there any really good draft picks that you can really point to that they've signed or that they've drafted?
You can't, and even some of their free agent signings before this season have been misses.
Mm-hmm. Because even drafting Roma Dunze last year, there's only
Terrible.
one ball. It made no sense. Like, go out and get you play in Chicago, you play in the Midwest. You need some beef in the middle.
They should have gone with one of the young defensive linemen, Jared Verse or Dallas Turner. Because take away Montez Sweat, that defense had nobody who could get after the quarterback. And when you run the kind of style of defense that Eberflus runs, he's the old Tampa 2, cover 4. We're going to rush with 4. Keep the quarterback in the well. You need to get people to get after the quarterback. And Ryan Poles got very aggressive and arrogant, like I said, and wanted to play fantasy football and took the wide receiver. When also the year before, he didn't draft Jalen Carter because, quote, he didn't fit the kind of people we want in this building. I don't give a shit about what Jalen Carter did at Georgia or didn't do.
He's going to Chicago. He'd fit right in.
Exactly. You draft a future Hall of Fame type talent in Jalen Carter when he was easily the best player in that draft. On the best defense in college football the last 2 seasons before that draft, you draft him. And he got arrogant and drafted Darnell Wright, and Darnell Wright is an okay right tackle for the Bears. He's not a Pro Bowler like Jalen Carter is, so there's another swing and a miss. But like you said, I think he realized that my job is on the line. And the nice part with Tooney, you have position versatility. Dylan, he can play left guard, he can play center, he can maybe play a little right guard. But what's also nice, he didn't miss a snap last year. He's been around Pat Mahomes. He's been around Creed Humphrey. He's been around Tom Brady. He's been around David Andrews in New England. Guy knows his football. Every former Patriots player that you listen to talk about him said he's one of the smartest people and one of the best football players they've ever met. This is the kind of guy that they need in their building in Chicago. And like you said, Ben Johnson's running the show. And if he can develop his players and build his culture the way that I think he wants to, watch out because Chicago will be good.
They will. And a team that I don't know if they're going to be good or not, I don't have a lot of high expectations for. The Dallas Cowboys, 5-time Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys. It hasn't been these big wows.
Okay. 5-time Super Bowl champion Cowboys. The last Super Bowl they won, you were still in a diaper.
I was also wearing Steelers attire too.
Yes.
Fun fact. Anyways, Grant.
Michigan has more national championships since the Dallas has had conference championship game appearances since you've been alive, or since that last Super Bowl.
This is true.
We're not shitting on Michigan, but we're shitting on the Cowboys here because they haven't even made it.
That's the low-hanging fruit at this point.
Well, someone's got to do it.
Someone, you know what's crazy is that nobody ever talked about Washington, how it took them that long to get to a NFC title game, or Detroit or any of this. But oh boy, the Cowboys, yeah, they haven't been to one since '95.
Well,
Anyways,
when you turn your TV on and all you see is the History Channel, and maybe Michael Irvin doing a line of coke, um, people are going to talk about you. When you want to talk like you're the New England Patriots, and you haven't done anything in 30 years, people are going to talk like that.
but anyways, we're going to talk about the present Cowboys. I love that they re-signed Odigizua, that the D line, and then they went out and signed Solomon Thomas. They're finally building some depth there. I think Osa is kind of the face of that. We're gonna see if Mozzie Smith can take another step. Solomon Thomas has not had a great career. Hasn't lived up to that number 2 overall pick, but he's been a decent pro. He's still been hanging around. They haven't really made that big splash. I think I saw that they haven't signed somebody a free agent over $6 million since 2013 when they signed Brandon Carr. But signing Javonte Williams, it's going to be much better than Zeke. I hate that they lost Rico Dowell. They went out and they got Peyton Turner from the Bears. Finally establishing some depth on the O-line, which what we've learned in the NFL these past few years is you can never have too many defensive linemen. You need depth at that position to rotate, keep guys fresh, especially if you plan on playing late in the year. They went out and traded and got Kyer Elam to get another corner opposite Diggs, which they missed. Doesn't solve that they lost Jordan Lewis to Jacksonville. I absolutely hate that one because he was as good of a nickel corner or a slot corner as you're going to find in the NFL. And he's been tremendous. I hate that he went to Jacksonville. He's been one of my favorite players since he was at Michigan. Never seen the guy miss a tackle, always in the right spot. But then they went out and traded for Kenneth Murray, a former first-round pick from the Titans. And you can kind of see that there's a little bit more emphasis in Dallas of their 2 weak points of the team last year were both the offensive and defensive line, especially after losing Zach Martin. They're going out and signing some offensive linemen. I think they still got to go younger and draft somebody at that position. But nonetheless, something that I've been hammering them for years is that they don't take the interior of the defensive line seriously enough, and they finally over these last couple of years have, between Eberflus and what they've done with Zimmer last year, they finally have gone out and made some investments in the defensive line, and hopefully that's able to pay off where it's going to take pressure off that secondary.
You said Kenneth Murray. Is that the linebacker I'm thinking of, or is this someone else?
Yes, the linebacker. Yep, they just traded for him today.
Was he drafted by Tennessee, or was it the Chargers?
He was drafted by Tennessee.
Is this the Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma?
Let's see here. It does look like it was Kenneth Murray. Oh, he was drafted by the Chargers. Yes.
Because I remember watching him in college, and that was when Oklahoma wasn't playing defense. Now Oklahoma's playing defense, but they're not playing offense. And he was the one bright spot on that OU defense. And at the time, that's when the Chiefs needed a linebacker. I was like, hey, maybe they could look at getting him. But the Chargers swiped him up before. But back to Dallas. There's not much they can do, Dylan, when you have a lot of money invested into, a couple key players, and you're going to have to pay Micah Parsons here shortly. You got to hope with these kind of mid-tier free agent signings that they hit. They're the kind of veterans you bring in, and they can help you win a game or two throughout the year. They might not be the young, flashy player with a lot of money, but if they can just, be a pro and help you and come in, work hard, do everything right, they can help you win a game or two throughout the season. So,
and when you
we
look
shall
at
see.
that Dallas team from 23, where they had a lot of those veteran glue guys that were bought in, they did their job, they knew their role. That was when you kind of had that success. And last year when they lost them, and a lot of them went over to Washington, you could definitely tell that was a big missing part of that defense, was they didn't have those veteran glue guys that were just doing their job and didn't care about the stats. They didn't care if they got the credit or not. They just wanted to win the games. And they were missing that last year. And I think they're finally trying to get back in there. It seems like this might be, you can tell that there's some Schottenheimer influence based off of what those some of these signings are. So we're gonna see if it pays off. And we'll get to we got a couple of more to discuss here, but you talked about some big contracts going up, and the Sam Darnold, MVP candidate, had a tremendous career, a good turnaround with the Vikings, signs 3-year, $100 million with the Seahawks. And frankly, I don't love it, Grant. I don't. He's going to a team with a worse offensive line, not as good of a play caller as KOC or quarterback coach, which you're hard pressed to find a better quarterback whisperer than Kevin O'Connell, as it's been proven. And they're going to be without their top two receivers. They don't have a tight end. Their O-line is abysmal, and their defense is not going to be isn't as good either.
And Kenneth Walker is always injured.
Kenneth Walker is always injured. Correct.
Excuse me, Dylan, I'm with you. This doesn't make any sense for Sam, only in this aspect. He found a team willing to give him a bag. And
if you're him, why not? He had a great career. He's earned it.
He's earned it. And you know what? That's the open market for you. If you don't like it, get out of this country. But he's now truly betting on himself. Where he's like, I spent the last 2 years working with Kyle Shanahan and KOC. They've taught me so much. I've changed my game. He's going to go bet on himself. But also, when you're the quarterback, just like Brock Purdy in San Francisco, you need all the pieces around you to help you set yourself up for success. There's not a lot there in Seattle. I mean, the fact that Mike McDonald fired his offensive coordinator after they went 10-7, and Geno put up some really good numbers this year, that I don't understand. Fourth team in 4 years for Sam, more new language, more new receivers to get used to and how their body works with mechanics and all this other stuff. And he showed this year in Minnesota. When it was go time, when it was nut cutting time, he was seeing ghosts again. It's just, again, good for him. He found the bag, but for the Seahawks, I think they're going to be sitting back regretting letting Geno go and trading DK away for a bag of peanuts and cutting Tyler Lockett. That's a leader in your locker room you don't have anymore. I mean,
nope.
Lockett was the OG on that team. He was the last person probably from the Legion of Boom as a player still there from that team, I'm saying. Like, I understand he played wide receiver, but that team and that defense and that culture that they had, he was the last player there, and now it's gone. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
That is something. Yeah, that's crazy to think about, because he would have been drafted. He would have been drafted the year after they lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots. He would have been a rookie in 15, I believe, if memory serves.
He had that crazy catch in overtime in that playoff game where he wasn't down and he got up and he ran for their 15 yards after that.
That's right.
When it was super, super cold. So the Legion of Boom era in Seattle is now officially gone. That culture, the crazy way that team practiced, and just how intense they were, it's over. So it's up to Mike McDonald now. And then is it Schneider, John, their GM, to build this team, get younger, and try to get those pieces around Sam Darnold, because if they don't, again, people's jobs are going to be flying off the shelf.
Yep. And, well, frankly, we saved the best for last. I don't know if there's a team, as it stands right now, that's having a better free agency period than the Minnesota Vikings. There was some steam there that Darnold was going to re-sign with the Vikings, but sometimes things may work out for the best, because if you end up signing Sam Darnold, you're not going to be able to get those pieces, because the Vikings, we'll call a spade a spade. Those last couple of games proved that they weren't just a quarterback away. The interior of the offensive line was a disaster. They're going to get healthier. They're going to get Darisaw back. And they get rid of Bradbury. They go out and they get Will Freeze and Ryan Kelly from the Colts. Pay big money for both of them. Well earned as well. This has been if you're a guard, you're a free agent in these upcoming years. Oh boy, you're chomping at the bit like, I'm about to be paid. And and they go out, they re-sign Byron Murphy, which, if you watch the Vikings defense this year, he was probably my favorite player to watch, because anytime that there was a play made on defense, it felt like it was made by Byron Murphy from Arizona. They go out, and another problem that's haunted Minnesota for years is the interior of the defensive line. They go out and they get Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. So that's going to shore it up. They're going to have that guy that's going to be dominant in the middle of that Brian Flores defense, that's going to be able to stop the run. And then they're going to be able to run the ball. They bring back Aaron Jones. I still think they probably, go and look to draft somebody in kind of those mid to later rounds, see if they're able to find someone. And right now, there's still maybe a little bit of talk about Aaron Rodgers signing with the Vikings, but you also have J.J. McCarthy, who sat out this year and won a national title at Michigan. The guy, he's a tremendous leader. There's been a lot of Vikings fans aren't very excited about him, calling him a handoff merchant, because, well, when he was at Michigan, did he have a tremendous offensive line, tremendous running game? Yes, he did. But, and people can call me a homer on this all they want, I don't care. But J.J. McCarthy on third down, who was number one when he was when the starting quarterback at Michigan in third down efficiency in college football? It was J.J. McCarthy.
It was definitely J.J. McCarthy.
When he was called upon to go and make plays, he delivered. And nobody is going to be over there bragging about the receiving core that Michigan had. They had some nice players, some good players, but they weren't at the level that Ohio State had. There were no Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, Emeka Ibuka, Jeremiah Smiths. There were some good players, and he's walking into a situation where he's going to have Aaron Jones as a runner. He's going to have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hawkinson.
Hawkinson coming off TJ coming off a full year healthy.
Full year healthy.
A full offseason off the knee.
And not to mention is, tell me a quarterback that hasn't looked good under Kevin O'Connell. Because we can say, I mean, and we've seen some rough ones. I mean, that year when Kirk tore his Achilles, I mean, you can't tell me that he didn't get the most out of Josh Dobbs. He didn't get the most out of Nick Mullins. He was able to scheme them up and get what they could out of them to be at least in games. And in the end, they were going up against Joe Burrow, Jared Goff's, those guys that aren't as talented. They're just not. And the fact that they were able to be in games with that level.
They were still in the playoff hunt week 17 against the Packers on New Year's Eve 2 years ago, with the island of misfit toys that they had at quarterback.
And you talk about, Grant, you talked about earlier, Sam Darnold, those last two games of him seeing ghosts in those big games. You never saw that with JJ. He was poised, he was calm, he was cool, he was collected. And the guy, he can spin the ball. He's got some zip on there that you didn't quite see that arm strength from Darnold this year in Minnesota, or something that you haven't really seen from him since he had that breakout year as a redshirt freshman for USC.
And one thing you really got to like for the Vikings, I'll talk real quick about those two Colts with Fries and Ryan Kelly. They already have that chemistry together. You're not bringing in a new center and a new guard, and these people, they need to work the first 4 weeks on how to work together, on combination blocks, on pass protection. If some guy slants this way and he needs to pick him up, because they've been doing that for these last 4 years together. And then Ryan Kelly coming in, just a quintessential pro. He's tough. He's physical. He's very intelligent. Players around him love him, and he's going to be huge in helping J.J. McCarthy get comfortable going forward with pass protections. Kind of like what Jason Kelce was for Jalen Hurts in his early time in his career. You might have Ryan Kelly calling out the protections while JJ is processing everything else. So that's another low key part of the signing that no one's going to talk about, is just the mental aspect and what Ryan Kelly is going to bring to the table for the Vikings in this offensive line and the young quarterback.
And not to mention, too, with JJ, back to him, you talked about the protections, handle that type of thing. In a Jim Harbaugh offense, the quarterback in college is doing that. He's not looking over to the sideline where the coaches are telling him what to do. He's the one motioning guys over, making those checks. So he has experience. It's obviously going to be a little bit different because it's not the same offense, but he has the ability. He has a much better understanding of it than most quarterbacks who do. I mean, you saw it this year with Caleb Williams. You could tell he wasn't that quarterback between the ears of what a quarterback who is used to making those checks at the line.
Exactly.
But that I think that wraps up our NFL free agency talk. I don't know if there's any other ones that you wanna touch on at all, Grant, or if I teased you with that we're gonna have a surprise here after we talk some NFL free agency. So if you don't have anything else to talk about, we'll get into
real quick. I know everyone is excited about what New England has done in free agency, getting all those defensive players. I hate to break it to the people in the Northeast. That ain't moving the needle up there. Defense was never a problem in New England. Yes, last year, did they dip down to the 15th best rush defense or 15th total defense in the NFL? Yes. But they also were without Christian Barrymore and Christian Gonzalez. And I think Kyle Duggar was injured too. Those players are coming back. Even if you didn't get these pieces they got, that's still going to be a top 10 defense with what Vrabel's going to do and the intensity and the culture that he's going to establish. You still have no offensive skill players. You have a young Drake May who's still raw. Joshy McDaniels, who's calling plays. He's a New England legend. But we saw what it was like with him not having Tom Brady. And when Mac Jones was the quarterback that rookie year, they actually had some skill pieces around Mac. They still don't have that. And it shows how little trust NFL players have in New England when Chris Godwin was offered $20 million more and chooses to stay in Tampa Bay. It's still going to be a long year, if you ask me, for New England, because I just don't think they're going to be able to score. And their offensive line might be the worst offensive line in the NFL. It is atrocious.
Are you saying they might be the Iowa of the NFL?
That's a great.
This is kind of how you're wording it. That's like, I was like trying to think. I was like, man, they don't have any receivers.
That is a great comparison. And here's the thing: this isn't the old Big Ten West. This is the NFL.
And the NFC West, or the AFC East, where you've got the Buffalo Bills.
The Buffalo Bills. And let's not forget, the Jets still have a good defense.
They do, and they'll probably be better under Aaron Glenn.
And they'll be better under Aaron Glenn, and you know what? They're going to have that toughness, and they're going to get all this other nonsense out of there. Miami, I still question about them, but you know what? They were still in the playoff hunt last year. And you know what? Any team facing the Patriots might look like the 85 Bears this year because that O-line is god-awful. And Drake May has no receivers to get open. So people in New England, yes, good signings. Of course, everybody's going to want to play for Vrabel on that defense, but that doesn't fix the issues you have on your team. Like there's still holes everywhere on that offense.
Yeah, and well, that was kind of Vrabel's downfall in Tennessee is he cared a little bit too much about the defense. But that's a different perspective that I didn't really think about. That yes, they were being very active and they had a lot of cap space, but it's a little bit shocking that they haven't been able to go out and sign any offensive pieces to really go out and help Drake May. So still a lot of things available. We'll see what happens, but it's surprise time now, Grant, and right now these upcoming weeks here are very very exciting times in the state of North Dakota as the 2A state tournament starts tomorrow. We've got region championships. There's actually one going on right now, Kindred and Wahpeton. That game is going on as we speak here. That game is being played at the Shack where the state 2A tournament, that's why that's being played today. The rest of the region championship games are going to be played on tomorrow. And then the state play-in games, because of the 3-class system, those are all going to be taking place Saturday. But we're gonna start here. We're not gonna do the play-in games. That's a little bit too complicated, or the 3rd and 4th place games, because Grant, so how this works out in North Dakota now is if you win the region, there are 4 regions in Class A and B. You win the region, you're into state. You don't have to play a play-in game. You take 2nd or 3rd in the region, you go to a play-in game at different sites in the state based off. So like region 3, 2nd and 3rd place teams will play each other for a spot in the state tournament. And regions 1 and 2 will play 2nd and 3rd place will play, and they'll just flip flop. So region 1, 2nd place will play the 3 seed from 3rd place from region 2, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But like I said, we'll start here in Class A. Region 1, the number 1 seed Kindred Vikings taking on the number 2 Wahpeton Huskies, who Wahpeton got into the championship game on a triple overtime win last night. And I can't remember who they were playing, but it did go into triple overtime. Wahpeton was able to pull it out. Who do you got? That game that's going on right now.
Well, I have been in the town of Kindred. I have not been to the town of Wahpeton. So by default, since I've been to Kindred, I'm going Kindred.
Kindred? Okay. Yeah, Kindred's been the number 1 team in the state all year. I believe they only have 1 loss, and that is to the Moorhead Spuds, who has just won their first hockey state title in eight tries. I don't know. Did you get to watch any of that game at all?
No, I didn't. But I saw they came out hot. They were up like 4-0 or 4-1 in the first period over Stillwater.
Yeah, Mason Kraft had like 4 goals in the first period.
Yeah, and they won an exciting game 7-6.
Yes. 20,000 people there. Incredible atmosphere. Whoa.
Your lights flickered there a little bit there, bud.
Yeah, one of the lights that I have behind the camera and what just went off. But anyways, I too also have Kindred. Hard to go against the number 1 team, been the most consistent team all year. Runner-ups in football this year, the runner-up in basketball last year on a mission. Region 2, the team that beat Kindred in the state championship team, the Devils Lake Firebirds, formerly, fun fact for you, Grant, I don't know when it changed, but their nickname back in the 60s, 70s, I think it changed maybe in the 70s. They used to be called the Devils Lake Satans, taking on the Thompson Tommies, the 2 seed out of Region 2.
Tommy's boring ass name, not fun. Devil's Lake.
Devil's Lake. I'm with you. That I gotta go with the Firebirds. The Grant Nelson's brother plays on that team, defending state champions. Give me the Firebirds. We'll go to Region 3. The Deluxe Burlington Lakers taking on the Turtle Mountain Braves. Now, Deluxe the 1 seed, Turtle Mountain the 7 seed out of Region 3.
Oh. I like me a good Cinderella story, but I feel like it's going to strike midnight. The glass shoe does not fit. The carriage is going to turn into pumpkin. I forgot the name of the 1 seed, but give me the 1 seed.
The Deluxe Burlington Lakers.
Thank you.
Okay, I gotta go with Deluxe too. They've been dominant in that region all year. I think that continues. I got the Lakers. And in Region 4, rounding it out, the Shiloh Christian Skyhawks, the 1 seed, taking on the number 3 seed Beulah Miners.
We're going to go with our first upset. Give me Beulah.
Ooh, well, they did beat the 2 seed Trinity last night. Led wire to wire, so they are hot. They are peaking at the right time. Shiloh, I believe, beat them by about 20 in the regular season. Shiloh has been on a roll as well. I'm gonna disagree with you here. I gotta go with the Skyhawks. They've been the most consistent team. It's actually a rematch from the Region 4 championship game last year that Shiloh came away with in overtime. So I got the Skyhawks here going to state. And we'll go down to Class B. Class B, kind of the same as A, like I told you. So we'll go to Region 1. And in Class B now, they have districts. So in Class A, it's just regionals, and that's it. They don't have any districts to get into regionals. So in Class B, the District 1, the 2 seed out of District 1, the Hankinson, I believe they are the Pirates, taking on, that's where Cody Mauk is from, taking on District 1 seed, the Oaks Tornadoes, which Oaks, home of NDSU great and Buffalo Bill great, and the autograph on that Trinity program from 98-99, Phil Hansen is from Oaks. Who do you got in that one?
Ethan can't be here with us tonight, but his name is Hank, so I'm gonna go Hankinson.
Hank, okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go with Oaks. I don't have a great idea of either team. I don't know very well on the east side of the state. But we'll go to Region 2 here. The District 4 1 seed, the New Rockford Cheyenne Rockets, taking on, I believe it's the North Border Eagles out of District 3. They were the 3 seed here. New Rockford Cheyenne coming off a 9-man state championship in football, if you remember. But who do you got coming out of Region 2?
We'll go with New Rockford Cheyenne.
Okay. I agree. I'm going with the Rockets. And go down to Region 3. We've got District 6 1 seed, our Redeemers out of Minot, taking on their crosstown rival and actually co-ops for football, the Bishop Ryan Lions, the District 6 2 seed. Now, these teams met in the district championship a week ago, and I believe Minot Ryan won the regular season. Our Redeemers won the district championship in what I believe was a double overtime game. Who do you got in this one out of Region 3?
You said, was it the Our Redeemers who just won the last matchup? And they lost in the regular season? They're going to go back to back.
Our Redeemers goes back to back. All right.
Our Redeemers goes back to back.
Okay. I'm flip-flopping here. I'm going with the Lions. I think they have been up there as probably both. I think they might have been 2 and 3 all year in the state kind of flip-flops. So depending on what happens, whoever loses this game, they go on to the play-in game. We could potentially see this one more time this year at the State B. But I got the Lions getting this one. And to round out Class B, we are going down to Region 4. The Central McLean, I want to say it's the Cougars. I can't remember who, taking on the Wilton Wing Miners. Wilton Wing has been the number one team in the state all year. They were undefeated until they lost to Central McLean in the district championship.
Ooh. You know what? I'm going to go with the number one team all year. Coast to coast.
Coast to coast. Okay. Wilton Wing. I do think Wilton Wing gets their revenge as well. So I got the Miners moving on to state here. And to round out before we get to curveball of the week, we save this one. I had it on the note in my notes. I had it up top, but I figured since it is state, we'll save the best for last here. The Class 2A state tournament starts tomorrow in Fargo. The first game of the day is the 4 seed out of the West, the Dickinson Midgets, taking on the East number 1 seed West Fargo Packers. Now, West Fargo, Grant, going into the year, or going into I think now they are 12-12 on the year. I don't know what they were seed wise in the EDC, but they were 12-12, so they weren't the 1 seed. Got hot, upset Fargo Davies in the semis, and then beat Red River in the championship to get the 1 seed. Their head coach Adam Palczewski has actually been on one of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast platforms of Conversation Monday, talking about his high school team that made it to state back in 2000. So he has been on the show. Adam has, and a little bit of a hometown battle, I guess, in the sorts for me, because the Midgets were the 4 seed. They were able to get 2 wins after losing in the first round of WDA to the Bismarck Demons here. Dickinson has been good. It's in a packed WDA where there probably were 5 or 6 teams that you could have said that could have come out of that tournament. Dickinson was one of them. But after that spiel now, Grant, who do you got, the Midgets or the Packers?
I'm going to go with the Packers just because I lived in West Fargo for 7-8 months when I was up there.
Oh yeah, you did.
So I'm going to go with West Fargo. Okay,
well, I'm going to go against you here. I think Dickinson pulls, which isn't an upset because Dickinson actually has a better record. But I got the Midgets beating the Packers and getting to the semis, their first semifinals since 2017. So we've got this one, the second game of the day, the number 2 seed Bismarck Demons versus the East 3 seed, the Fargo Davies Eagles. The Davies Eagles has the all-time scoring record for points in Class A in North Dakota in Mason Claybo, the Illinois State commit. Who do you got winning this one?
You know what? I got to roll with Davies. Like you said, sounds like they have the best player on the court. Big players show up in big time games.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm going with the Davies Eagles as well. The third game of the day, the Bismarck Century Patriots taking on the team that's been in the state championship game the last 2 years, Fargo North Spartans. They won it back in 22 in 23, and then they were the runner-up last year, losing to West Fargo Cheyenne in 24. Here, who do you got in this one?
Didn't Carson Wentz go to Century?
Carson Wentz did go to Century.
We are big Carson Wentz fans. Give me Bismarck Century.
Do you know what their mascot is?
Isn't it a Patriot?
It is a Patriot. Yes, I'm with you. Darren Mattern, tremendous defensive coach. He's going to have those guys ready. I think Century gets a win, goes to the semifinals, and then rounding out the day is the number 2 seed out of the East, the Grand Forks Red River Rough Riders, taking on the 3 seed out of the West, the Mandan Braves.
Ooh. Give me the Rough Riders.
The Rough Riders, I would probably agree with you. I think this is going to be a very exciting game. I think the Rough Riders are going to end up pulling it out. I think they just got a little bit more firepower offensively. Mandan, they got a stud in Hudson Sheldon, who's going to be a football player at UMary. But I think Red River, like I said, just got a couple more horses in the end that they're going to be able to pull out a win over the Braves. So going to the semis here, this is where we defer a little bit. Grant has West Fargo versus Fargo Davies, a rematch of the EDC semifinals that West Fargo won. Do you see West Fargo getting another win?
No, Davies then gets the dub here.
Dave, okay, yep, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I got Davies as well, beating Dickinson. In the other semis is Century versus Red River. Who do you got?
We're going to continue to roll with Carson Wentz and go Century.
We're going with the Patriots. All right, I'm with you as well. Matter in that defense, stifling. I think it's going to make it tough on Red River. I think Red River actually upset them 2 years ago in the semis. Century was undefeated. Red River pulled the upset. They actually they upset the defending state champions in Minot in the opening round. Zach Kraft, who is a starter for UND, was a walk-on to the Fighting Hawks and has worked his way as a redshirt freshman into that starting lineup for the UND basketball team. Pulled the upset over Century. I think Century still has that on their mind, and I think Century gets their revenge 2 years later and beats the Rough Riders. So that sets up a championship between the Century Patriots and Fargo Davies Eagles.
Well, just like Super Bowl 52, the Eagles will defeat the Patriots.
Ooh. Interesting. Grant, you got the Eagles. And outside of Mason Claybo, I don't know a whole lot of what Davies has. I really, frankly, don't know what Century really has either. But Davies may have the better player, but there is something about that Darren Mattern defense that if they're able to key in and make things rough, play a very physical brand of basketball where they are very rough. It goes back to when Dickinson High had Anand Moody in the semis, and Century just roughed them up and weren't really get on and off his game. I think they're able to do that. I think they're able to find a way to get Claybo off his game, and I have Century winning it all.
Well, there you go.
There it is. So that's our predictions. Sure to go wrong. We'll be back next week. We'll do our Class A and Class B. We'll test if Ethan's back from his colonoscopy. We'll test and predict our Class A and B predictions for state. But Grant, let's wrap up the show here. What do you got for us for Curveball of the Week?
So I was just wondering, we've all seen TV shows and we've all fallen in love with characters on said TV shows, Dylan. I'm curious, what TV show character, sitcom, drama, action, whatever you want to call it, feel like best represents you? Like you look at that character and you think, that is the person I am in real life.
Charlie Harper. I'm just kidding. No, definitely not me.
Ooh. I mean, every man tries to be Charlie Harper.
Yep.
But only one man can be Charlie Harper.
That is very true. Oh man, that is a good one. Now, did you think of that one on your own, or did that just appear to you?
It literally just appeared to me today, Dylan, at 7:45.
At 7:45. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. TV character that describes me. Oh man. That's something you'd have to ask somebody almost.
I know ahead of time. So
Yeah.
I'll give you my answer first. I don't know if this will help you or not, but did you ever watch New Girl?
No.
Okay. So it's hilarious, but Jake Johnson, the guy who plays Nick Miller, that is me. He's got a simple wardrobe. He always wore a pair of jeans and a plaid shirt, a flannel shirt. Kind of a slob, a bit real rigid, doesn't want to change, just a giant goofball. The show he enjoyed drinking beer. I'm not going to call myself a giant beer expert, but when I do drink, I'll just have that. Huge sports fan, and like I said, just real kooky, and didn't want to change. Which, like I said, extremely rigid. Did his same 4 things, and that's all he wanted to do.
That does kind of sound like me though too.
A little.
We might be the same person.
It very well could be the same person.
I'm trying to think back of like all the TV shows that I've watched over the years that would really describe me, because there are moments where like I feel like Alan Harper and I just have absolutely terrible luck with things.
Mm-hmm. So the one person, Dylan, you're not as extreme as this character, but for you, a little Ron Swanson.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yep, that is a good one.
Especially your eating habits: the steak, eggs, bacon.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to try some of this turkey bacon. Throw it away. Can I have another piece? Throw that away. Nobody should be eating this.
It was vegan bacon. It was vegan bacon. 100% meatless. I'm making sure nobody has to eat this horrible food. The problem that you would run into there is, I don't know if you've watched that show in its entirety, but when he's getting quizzed by the doctor about sexual history as private and epic, mine I would not say is falls in that category, but since we're talking, I feel like maybe I have some Chandler Bing qualities of nobody really knows what I am a very sarcastic asshole at times.
Yes, you are.
Nobody really fully knows what I do at my job. Most of the time, I don't even know half the time what I do at my job.
No, that checks out.
And there's also parts of me too where I kind of feel like Tommy Norris in Landman, where I at work I feel like I'm kind of the solutions guy.
You're the go-to guy.
Yeah. So,
and you do enjoy Michelob Ultra.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Like Tommy Norris.
That might be the problem is too, though, is like I'm turning into my dad, and as I've gotten older, my alcohol consumption has gone way down from my college years, or early adulthood years, when I was like freshly 21, from like that 21 to 26 range, where it was like almost felt like a weekly occurrence. Mm-hmm. But now I don't even know where I'm going with this one. But so I think that's just a sign that we're just going to wrap up the show here. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in. Apologies that we weren't able to get it up on Facebook. Hopefully be able to get that fixed next week. But in the meantime, go check us out on all of our social medias. Make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe. 3GTB Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Make sure you go subscribe there. And we will be back next week with our full March Madness bracket preview, along with our North Dakota Class A and Class B previews as well. But until next time, thank you again for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.